For the benefit of those who are not familiar with IR 4.0 technologies, the basic building block for IR 4.0 is technologies like big data, IoT, AI, cloud computing, to name a few. These technologies were also present pre-pandemic, but businesses did not visualize the need to embrace innovation and invest in these technologies. The businesses that survived the pandemic were the ones that were agile and innovation-centric. Let's get more information and advice on this topic from all our esteemed panelists. It's my pleasure and privilege to introduce to you our panelists for today's session, starting with Dr. Anusha Nair. Dr. Anusha Nair is a general practitioner at Clinic Genga. She's also a founder of Noosh and an amateur inventor. Dr. Anusha is a very passionate person and who believes in achieving health by incorporating modern technology into ancient practices. She's also an amateur inventor with a patent under her name. She is inspired to create a non-invasive, non-medical method of pain management for patients who are suffering with osteoarthritis of the knee. She's not only an innovator, she's also a brand owner. In 2018, Dr. Anusha founded Noosh, which is a healthcare product line for the skin and body care products. This product line was built with the aim to help patients with eczema and psoriasis to not rely on steroids. Our next panelist for today is the very enterprising Noor Aiza Shamsul Baharin. Noor Aiza, as we call her, she's the managing director of Madcat World and also president of VINA, Association of Bhumiputra Women Entrepreneur Network of Malaysia. A bit about Ms. Noor Aiza. She runs a startup called Madcat World, focusing on mobile technology and lifestyle apps in the fintech and crowdfunding space. She's a recipient of Great Women of Our Times Award for Science and Technology by Malaysian Women's Weekly in 2011. She also got an award in 2013 for Nef Avani ICT Award for the Best Women Techpreneur. And recently she's got the Women's Icon Award in 2019. A little bit more about Noor Aiza on the screen now. Our next panelist for the session now is the very humble and acclaimed academician, Prof. Dr. Rofina Yasmin Othman. Prof. Yasmin sits on the board of University of Malaya and several subsidiaries, Saraya Capital and MIF Investments Southern Berhad. She's also a member of the University Senate. As an Associate Vice Chancellor, she is committed to building an innovative ecosystem, accelerate the university's R&D output, and facilitate in high-tech investments. Not only that, she's an active molecular research. She also is heading an active biomolecular research group and has filed more than 10 patents and graduated more than 20 PhD and 30 master students. Prof. Yasmin brings with her a wealth of expertise within the biotechnology ecosystem. She is also a fellow of the Academy of Sciences Malaysia. She is active in issues relating to biosafety, biopolicies, and is currently a member of the National Biosafety Board. Our next guest of honor for today and our panelist is a fashionista, and she is Ms. Gina Frias. Ms. Gina Frias is a director and founder of Ecopreneur, founder and chief designer of Gina Frias London, director, founder, and chief designer of Axxezz. Gina is a globally recognized designer who's a recipient of many awards which she's garnered in her name. As we can see on the slide here, she's got so many awards in so many fashion events across the world. The most recent award being, she got the award for sustainability in fashion in 2020 at the Oriental Fashion Show Awards during the Paris Haute Couture Fashion Week. Her goal with Ecopreneur is to offer environmentally friendly solutions to modern day problems and to extend her support to the underprivileged. We now go on to the moderator for the event, Ms. Gita Kandya. Ms. Gita is a leading IP expert in Malaysia with over 16 years of extensive experience in developing IP strategies across industries. She helps her clients and companies to boost their value and expedite their growth using IP. Being an expert in the field, she frequently shares her expertise on BFM 89.9, Bernama TV, local and foreign publications. Gita has also been a keynote speaker at several engagements and conferences in Tokyo, Osaka, Nagoya, Taipei, and India, to name a few. So that was the introduction of our panelists and our moderator. So are you ready now to begin the session? And before I pass it on to Gita, I would like to hear from you on a poll. Do you have an innovation culture in your organization? So I'd like to hear from all of you, ladies and gentlemen present here. So what do you feel? We're right there with Apple. We are trying, but we can do better. Innovation is a foreign word. Not yet, not sure how to start. So let's see. What are the votes coming like? Wow. So it's so heartening to see that 69% of participants here believe that we are trying and we can do better. This is amazing. Gita, I hand this over to you now.
Thank you, Mega. Think you can also stop sharing the slides.
Yes.
Right. So many of you say you can do better. You're trying, and that's the key word. And that's why you're here today to join us. We're very happy to have you here today. Thanks, Mega, for all the introductions. What you don't know, that Mega is not an MC. She is a patent manager, and she's got a wealth of experience. She has 15 years of experience, hails from Pune, India, and she specializes in ICT, but she oversees a large team of patent executives and administrators. Thanks, Mega, again. All right, let's get started, everyone. Before moving on further, to all of you, there's 119 of you tuning in now. Please make it interactive. And by interactive, I mean, take down questions, jot down questions that you may have to any of the panelists, put it in the chat box. Our team will pick up those questions and we will then address all of your questions during the Q&A segment at the end of this panelist discussion. Yeah, so play with us and make sure you gain as much as possible. We've invited them to come in, and as you know, everyone who is successful is also very busy. So since they took their time out, make use of their expertise to learn from them. All right, Aiza, over the years, yes, you're the first chosen one. Over the years in your position as the managing director of MadCat, what would you say is your most innovative idea that you have implemented into your company?
I guess let's start, Gita. What is innovation? Right. So
that's a good start. Okay, let's define it. What
Yes.
would your definition of innovation be?
Well, I did Google, so I wanted to find out what other people thought innovation was. So one of the key things that people talk about is how we add value from a customer perspective, right? So when we talk about creativity, that is the creation of something new, but innovation is actually the implementation of that creativity or that creative idea, right? But what I like the most is what this guy said, that innovation is staying relevant. Okay, so you keep on innovating so that you are relevant to the market and you are relevant to the industry. So that would be my key, right?
That's a good definition.
So along the way, we've done many things. You know, the one reason why I'm in a mobile app is because the lifespan of an app is maybe 6 months at the most. So you're always forced to think about something new, add on new features, stay relevant all the time. So this is exciting to me, very stressful to my team because they're like, Aiza, we haven't even finished, and then you're thinking of a new idea. So this is what I love to do, right? So one of the things that we always look at is how do we keep coming up with new ideas? Because my background is that I'm from Nokia, so we all know what happened to Nokia. So these are one of the things that is a caveat. So we have to keep innovating and keep seeing what's happening in the market, in the industry, so that you are always relevant. So things that I implement in my company. So things like, every now and then we see a problem that we keep seeing. And then all the new guys, they're like, what do you mean you've seen it before? And then all the old guys, oh yeah, but I forgot. So what we decided then is that we need to have a knowledge base. So just a knowledge base to capture knowledge so that as people come and go, at least the knowledge is still there. And then the problems that you keep seeing, you can find the solution somewhere. So we have to keep doing that as an IT-based company, right? And of course, we always look at the new where we fit in that whole industry.
That's interesting sharing. So you're looking at an innovative idea that you implemented internally to smoothen the process within the team.
Yes. Yes.
Thanks for the sharing.
Yeah, because always you look at what is painful in your organization. So based on the pain that you're facing, what can you do to actually make it better?
Thanks for the sharing, Aiza. So you kind of like don't reinvent the wheel. If we have solved this problem before, let's go back to how did we solve the problem before. Great one. And Prof. Yasmin, you come from a different background. All of them are entrepreneurs. Well, one's an entrepreneur and a practicing doctor. But as the Associate Vice Chancellor of University Malaya, you are entrusted to build an innovative ecosystem in the university that allows R&D inputs by researchers in the university to be then matched with industry.
I think we lost Gita.
I can carry on and answer.
Okay, how does the university develop an innovative culture? I think there's a technical problem there. Sorry, okay, let me repeat the question. How does the university develop an innovative culture, ensuring that you're innovating on products and services that can actually be commercialized eventually, that you're researching and innovating on existing things that can eventually be commercialized?
So that is always the $1,000,000 question for universities. Thank you very much, first of all, Gita and team, for inviting me and all the participants who are here today. Actually, I think Aiza spoke just now about what her definition was, and I totally agree. But the simple fact for us in university is that how do we then make a positive change from whatever we do in the university? So positive change, I think, is another sort of simple outcome for innovation. Because if you look at university, right, we know university is the hub of creativity. It is really where ideas come from. But really most of what we do at university, and a lot of people say this, is that we are more curiosity driven, that our aim is to create new knowledge, that our end goal is to really discover why and how and what, which is all the elements of creativity. However, yeah, we also need to kind of like, how do we then rephrase these discoveries, this creativity, these ideas into actually actions that can create positive change? So in other words, how then do we move discovery into innovation? So a lot of people misunderstand R&D actually. So a lot of people say R&D is research and development is innovation. So R&D need not necessarily be innovation, but it's part of the fantastic value chain. And it's where innovation sort of starts, or, this is the real cauldron of ideas. So at university, when you talk about the culture of innovation, you're absolutely right. It's not necessarily the core culture that researchers have. So researchers, despite being creative or being full of ideas, being able to ask questions, be able to find answers, they also now have to learn how to translate this to the next step of getting value. And for me, what I've found out from 20 years of managing innovation is that it boils down to exposure, engagement, really, and an interaction with the end user. So without knowing who is the end user, what is the end user, what is the pain point, I think Aiza talked about this, R&D is never going to be an innovation. It is useful in its own right, and it's really necessary for us to build the sort of base of knowledge. But, so engagement, and that's what we've been trying to do in the last 10 years, really, to provide sort of different ways that researchers can be exposed to their end user, whether it's community, whether it's industry, you know, and then to understand really what the problem statement is and how do we then, you know, create the link between problem statements and creation or ideation or, you know, R&D output. So it's a real process, and there is a gap, you know, there is a gap, and the gap comes from many different reasons. And but I think we've made leaps and bounds in terms of trying to bridge this gap between research and innovation. And it is a cultural change, and it is about giving opportunities for people to interact like today. So I'm really happy to see, you know, more than 100 people here today. And I hope you learn a little bit about university and not see university as something separate from entrepreneurship, from innovation, from, you know, industry application. We are part of the value chain, and we hope to be more and more, you know, part of that idea. So yeah,
Yeah, well said. I mean,
start.
it's
Yeah.
we've had clients, and I know that Dr. Anusha is also collaborating with your team in UM. So
Correct.
it's similar situations where we've had industry players coming to us and saying that I don't have the R&D team, I can't afford an R&D team. But universities have these grants and they're meant to do research. Their PhD students are meant to do research. So we've had clients collaborating with many universities in Malaysia, and exactly what you talked about, you know, matching, and then it's a symbiotic relationship that brings benefit to not just the university or the industry player, but also to community, because they are putting the innovative product or service into community. So we benefit, you and me benefit.
That's
Thanks
right.
for sharing, Prof. And Dr. Anusha, the doctor in the house.
Hi
Being
there.
in a being in a medical practice for the past 15 years, practicing itself takes time, takes immense amount of hours, and keeps you very busy. We are very interested to find out, how did you find time to innovate? R&D takes time. And then what compelled you to innovate?
Thank you, Gita, first of all, for having me here. It's really an honor, a pleasure to be amongst all of you, such esteemed panel, and I'm really humbled to be called to be part of the panelists. But getting back to the question, basically, my clinic does very out of the box kind of management for our patients. So my father started this practice in 1979, and at that point, he was one of the few doctors around the PJ area, and we had quite a big client base. And what he was noticing was that people were generally coming to the doctor with a lot of chronic illnesses, which were basically treated with symptomatic therapies. And so he went back into that whole question of how can I reverse the disease? How can I change the status quo? How can I treat a patient holistically and change and improve their state of well-being? So it went from there, and that I guess through innovation, that the process was that he actually came up with his own methodology, own treatment regime to address health issues from the inside. And I joined him about 12 years ago, and picking up from where he, or basically under his tutelage, we all were always told to question everything. Don't just take facts as fact value. Try to find what is the reason for causing for certain things to happen. What is the cause and effect, and in healthcare as well. Going back to the root of the issues is very, very much like a culture in my practice. So that being said, innovating, what I had to do was basically patients come to us with issues, and we try our best to solve those issues. And most of the time we solve them through thinking outside of the box, through innovation. And so it just dawned on me when people come to me with an issue over and over again, that I have to find a way to kind of help them. And using the current methods that we were doing, I wanted to make a way that they could actually take it home with them, so that we could be actually like we were there with the patient, treating them at home, instead of having to come to us to get those the treatment that we were offering. So that was what the whole idea of the whole how the innovation came about in the first place. And it did take time, honestly. So it just starts as a little idea, and then you work on that idea a little bit, and then it just develops from there. So what I do is I don't rush it, but I don't give up on it. So that's my process in how I tackled this particular issue.
Nice. You compartmentalize. Time for this and time for that.
Yeah, I do it a little bit at a time, so I don't stress myself out. Oh my God, I gotta finish it right now. You know, it's no such thing, because it's really, innovation takes time. Innovation takes a lot of effort. It takes multiple parties involved. You cannot sit by yourself in a room and innovate on your own. You need people to help you. You need other expertise as well. So yes, it was a slow process. And it's still ongoing. So, but at least the cogs are moving. So.
Very interesting. So we're also keen to find out later on what you're collaborating with with. I'll come back to that if you have more time later, yeah? All right, so to the audience, we're again keen to hear your views, and we have another question for you. Is innovation key to staying ahead in your industry? Wow, look at that. We have very interesting data coming in. So yes, we're innovating. We eat innovation for breakfast. So you're like, yes, I need to do it. And that's why I'm here for the talk. And no, there are other more pressing factors to prioritize. To those who are putting no, there's other factors, we completely understand. But we want to hear from you. So put in the chat box, what are these factors? What firefighting are you doing that innovation is not important at this point of your time or this point of your business? So the results are out, and there you go. Majority of you agree that innovation is key to staying ahead, but then some of you, 12%, say that no, there are more important factors to prioritize. So we're keen, guys, to know what are these important factors. So drop it in the chat box, yeah? And I guess that's why all of you are here. So that's perfect to move on to our next panelist, because Gina innovated, and let's find out more. Gina, the fashion industry, right, has a different target market. You have different channels of distribution. It's completely different from what you pivoted to. You went into the cleaning industry, started producing sanitizers, got halal certifications, and you're not only selling in Malaysia, you're venturing into Singapore, you're venturing into Indonesia. You recently asked us about Uzbekistan. What is going on, Gina? And how did you pivot from a fashion industry to something that you don't know about, something that you're not familiar about? How did you do it, and what was your biggest challenge?
Hi, Gita. Thank you for the question. Thank you for introducing me. I have to tell you my story first. I was born in the Philippines, both having a Belgian and Filipino citizenship, and a resident of Malaysia for the past 28 years. I studied industrial engineering at the University of Santo Tomas in my hometown, Manila, Philippines. And at a very young age, I was already obsessed in designing. From grade school, I was designing and wearing costumes for the United Nations Day, which is a very, very big event in Philippine schools, you know? And my passion for fashion prevailed when I moved here in Malaysia in 1993. I created my own brand. I think you know about my brand, Axxezz. And this is a collection of lifestyle accessories from head to toe, you know? So now let's go back to the beginning with Axxezz. The first concept that I did was all about back to nature. I was really focused on using indigenous materials like corn, lemongrass, ginger, raffia, cinnamon, just to name a few. But I have two favorite species that I always like to work on. coconut. First one is coconut, actually. So with the coconut, I used to have a collection of bangles, bags like this. Oh, it's green. Can you see?
Gotta bring it closer, I think.
It's color green. Yeah, like
Now we
this
can see it.
coconut shell. Yes, and I used to call it as Coco Loco collection, you know, and I work with these indigenous materials. Like I ended up using coconut beads, coconut flour on my bangles, and even the husk from the coconut, which we used to use in polishing floors, you see. And not only that, I was also obsessed in using this banana. I love bananas. I enjoyed going bananas, designing banana accessories, anything about bananas. Yeah, I mean, I use it for hats, and I use bananas in everything that, like the whole tree of the banana, from the leaves to the trunk. If you can see, these are all the fibers of the trunks that I was using for my accessories. And can you see this? Do you know what is this?
Something from the
It's a
banana tree.
fruit. It's a banana fruit. Actually, this is a 28-year-old prototype that I have done in 1993, and I still have it up to now. I keep all these inspirations with me because they take me along the way to the future, you see. So I always go back where I started. And I think when it comes to Back to the Future, where I started this concept in Axxezz, with this in mind, I created a new brand which will take me back to the future. And that's why I ended up doing this. Whoops.
Bring it closer to the screen.
Yeah.
Your Eco2Ray sanitizer, right?
Yes, yes. So with this sanitizer, actually, there are so many ways of how we can use it. It's eco-friendly, and it's actually
Gina, so what was the challenges? Because it's
Oh,
completely
yes, the challenges that we come across to this is getting the KKM approval and the halal certificate, which took us 7 months to get to receive, and 9 months for the halal certificate, which is really, really difficult. But in December last year, on my birthday, that is a blessing from Jakim that we've got the halal certificate, which is, wow, it's a breakthrough, you know, the very first Malaysian halal approved sanitizer. The challenge that we have is actually educating people that alcohol-free sanitizers can be effective, if not more effective than alcohol counterparts. When we first entered the pandemic, it was widely reported, not just Malaysia, but all around the world, that only alcohol sanitizers can kill germs. After a long hard work and perseverance, and also closely working with the Ministry of Health and KKM, not only we do accept our sanitizers as a germ that's a 99% germs killer, they also acknowledge that our sanitizer can kill even faster than alcohol. And one thing which is very, very, I think this is the most challenging part, when you're a non-Muslim promoting a halal product. At first, I received mixed responses. The Ministry of Health announced that it's okay to use alcohol sanitizers, but only because there were no alternatives at that time. Fortunately, I have a very good idea to work up with a good team around me when we were guided by our chairman, Tengku Hishamuddin Saisi of the Royal Selangor, the royal family of Selangor, which help us to gap and connect us to the key decisions. who are actually making this bridge, this gap to connect us to the Malaysian consumers, you know. So halal for me doesn't mean that it's just for Muslims. It means for everyone. It is a lifestyle of clean living. Did I answer your question?
Thanks, Gina. Thanks for the sharing. And moving on to Aiza. Aiza, you head a Women Entrepreneurs NGO. Where did innovation come into play for you and your organization during this crisis?
Okay, so one of the things that we've been working on just before we started, I guess just before the MCO, the first MCO lockdown, was that we were looking at doing this academy for women entrepreneur with the US Embassy. So we got funding to do that, and we had all these things planned out. You know, like we had boot camps, we had training sessions, all kinds of stuff. And as soon as the lockdown happened, all that went away because we couldn't actually meet face to face. And then what we saw was that we needed to move to Zoom. Thank God there was Zoom, and then people learned how to do that. And we wanted to get this education going through Zoom. And it's still a challenge in certain states, like in KL, we can reasonably do it. When we launched in Sabah, it was very difficult because in Sabah, the connection is terrible, right? So there are people who had to go to classes at 3 a.m. just to get connection. So again, our main goal is that how do we help others, right? So when we saw this pandemic happen and we saw what's happening, and everybody's waiting for the government to do something. So as an NGO, we also look at how can we help, right? So it's fortunate for me that I was also working on a fintech at that point in time, and the fintech actually gives out microloans. So at that time, when it happened, we quickly pulled together our friends, and then we managed to get 3,000 ringgit, and with that we funded 3 women who needed help. So that got us going, and then once we got support from the US Embassy, we helped another 30 people. So that's
Very nice. I think it makes a difference when an association or NGO has an entrepreneur up there. Challenges what? In inventions are mother of necessity, right? So
yes,
it's
definitely.
so it forced you to kind of pivot and look at what ways to overcome that.
Yeah, because like a lot of emphasis is being put on the government to do something, right? So we as women, we feel that we should also step up and do something. So
Yeah. Well done, Aiza. Not just figuring out the whole getting them on the internet and getting them online, but also giving them money. Ka-ching! But moving on to Dr. Anusha. Dr. Anusha, what is your biggest learning from this crisis? How can participants apply it to their own businesses?
Yeah, I think COVID-19 has been a humbling experience for many people. There were people who were brought to their knees at this point in time, and it's really, I think, one of it is realizing that we need to be more exposed. We cannot rely on the methods that we were using in the past, and innovation is the only way forward. And there is no other way, that you have to utilize technology, you have to utilize your network, you have to build online relationships as well as offline relationships. But online relationships are so important these days. I think these are the definite takeaways from this pandemic, that learning to support one another as well, in terms of through online referrals and introductions, and writing reviews, and all these kind of things which you never really thought about before become necessities, become really vital at this point in time. And I think we have to I think that is definitely one of the things that I've learned, that we cannot just remain in a little bubble thinking that we're good, that everything we do is amazing. It's good, but if people don't know about it, if people can't get to you, then it means nothing.
We heard that coming to see a doctor, like visits to doctors dropped immensely because everyone was very afraid of COVID. So did that happen with Clinic Genga?
Of course.
And then, okay, because of that, okay, so there was a clear impact. Did you then have to like, okay, I'll focus on Noosh Naturals now?
No, I think you see, our patient loads before were we would see maybe about 60 patients a day, so it would be quite a big chunk. So I think we're about half that at the moment, because we had patients from everywhere, all across Malaysia. We have patients from Johor, Malacca, Seremban, Singapore, everywhere they would be able to come to see us. So right now, throughout the pandemic, throughout the last year, we've been just focusing on treating face to face with our local patients, but we were consulting over the phone, we were posting out medication, we were doing whatever other support system necessary for all our patients who we couldn't get to. So yeah, there was still a steady revenue. We were still making ends meet, and we recently launched our website, and we opened a Facebook page.
There you go, everyone. Find Dr. Anusha. For those who don't know, Dr. Anusha's clinic is famous. Like, if you speak to a lot of people, Clinic Genga is known for a special sort of therapy, and that's where they built a lot of reputation. So did you also take it online? Was there online treatment?
No, we can't do online treatment. We have to be we do give online consultation or over the phone consultation, but in terms of treatment, we have to be there hands-on, because it's like a therapy that they have to come to us to do. So actually, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to create something that people could take home with them. So if at all a situation like this arose, that they would have at least something
So your innovation before the pandemic helped you out.
Yeah. If yes, I mean, in my foresight, I definitely knew that we could not just remain in one place. It was difficult for patients to see us, so it was definitely something we needed to do. And the pandemic is actually just forcing people to evolve. The evolutionary process was already there. It's just that this is basically the evolutionary pressure. It's like change or die, this is going to happen whether you like it or not, but you got to do it right now.
I think it's easy to stay in our status quo. It's easy to stay in your comfort zone, because busyness, they say a busy person does not innovate. That's a known statement. So they say that if you want to innovate, you need to not be busy and find quiet times or carve quiet times into your schedule. Otherwise, you will not be innovating. All right, folks, we have another question for all of you. And this time, it's a bit more sensitive. Let's have a poll, the third poll come up. Right. It's in conjunction with International Women's Day. Are men more innovative than women?
Be honest, everybody.
Be honest, and speak your mind, and say what you feel in your chat box. Yeah, if our question if our question angered you, say it in a chat box. There you go. Many of you on the fence. I think both are innovative. So 66% have said that both are innovative. There are some more views that say absolutely. That's amazing. 10%. So 134 of us are here today. 13 of you think yes, men are more innovative. Tell us why. We're very keen to hear. Tell us why. Put it in the chat box, yeah, so everyone can see. No way, women are more innovative. Also tell us why, because we're not agreeing with you yet. Let's hear from the panelists what they think, yeah? And Prof. Yasmin has the benefit of that now. Let's put her in the hotspot. Prof. Yasmin.
You'll have to guess what I answered.
Yeah.
I think we know the answer, Prof. Yasmin.
So, Prof. Yasmin, you were saying in a recent discussion with all the panelists, and also recently, UM had a launch. You launched 40 new startups recently on where they utilize R&D results from your university. And you were so, exactly, there you go, Deep Tech 2020 Startup Accelerator. And in this,
the presses.
in this deep tech accelerator program, Prof. Yasmin, you were saying, and you were excited to share that more than 50%
Yeah.
of these 14 companies were helmed by female entrepreneurs. Do you feel, the fact that you were excited itself, let's catch on to that excitement. Do you feel that this is unusual? Because if there's excitement, then it must be unusual. So do you feel this is unusual? That's the first question. On that, is there a gender gap amongst leaders who are innovators?
Okay. So the answer is yes. And I thought, is it just my sort of narrow opinion? But actually, I then I looked it up, and I looked at some recent figures outside. And I think in Malaysia, all of you have to admit, when you do see startup events and all that, it's still predominantly men-led founders. I mean, for whatever reasons. Having said that, I personally believe there's no difference between the capacity for men or women to innovate. It is opportunity, and it is confidence. Okay, and or maybe a bit of both. So actually, I looked at the statistics. Just taking university as an example. If you look at tech in university in Malaysia, for example, and this was the recent article in the Edge by Boston Consulting, right? And they said, like, in Malaysia, almost half of the tech graduates are women, but when they went into industry, it went down to 35%. When it went down to senior management, it went down to 26%. And when it went to CEO level, it's gone down to almost 10%. So there's attrition. So I don't know what happened there as well. But going back to so we have a good starting point, and it's above the world average. We have a lot more women in tech in Malaysian universities than, say, in many East Asian countries and even in Europe, surprisingly. So opportunity is there to begin with. We have as many women as men academics actually in University of Malaya. Very proud of that, and we have women in leadership. But when you look at entrepreneurship in and you look at the startup in things have changed so much. When we first started our Technopreneur Startup Program, 2009, all the companies that launched at that time were men academics. And it was quite normal over the years when, as I observed, being in management, that a lot of women academics chose to do community engagement more than they chose to do industry engagement or technology startups. Then in the next few years after that, we had two startups being from women. But in this group of the recent startup accelerator, and it's a deep tech accelerator. So we are focusing on patented high technology innovations, like nanosensors, alternative energy, new batteries, quite amazing technologies, and very high tech technologies. And 10 out of the 14 new sort of up-and-coming startups had either founders or co-founders who were women. Just amazing. So I sat down also when you asked me this question, what happened? What's the difference? So it goes to the second question. And I'm just speculating. In the last few years, in fact, the last 4 directors of our innovation center have been women, including myself as one of them. So, before me was Dr. Yusnizar from business school and myself, and then Prof. Fatima from engineering, and now it's Dr. Ivy from Faculty of Medicine. In fact, it's quite diverse set of women from different faculties. And I don't know whether that gives a little bit of confidence in what was traditionally seen as, industry engagement, forming companies, doing startups, very much within the domain of the other gender. I mean, I could be wrong here, guys. Don't stare at me like that.
No, I think you might be right. I think it's the whole role model. You see your
role model,
self.
and also you feel you can express yourself maybe much easier. We have a cultural thing about communication. We are Asians, and we respect the cultural kind of nuances and how we communicate with each other. So university is a very neutral kind of place now, and I love that about Malaysian universities. Actually, Malaysian universities, to be honest, is a level playing field of opportunity for men and women. So and I'm very happy about that. So these women were selected not by choice, not by design. They're really selected by merit.
Yeah,
They
that's
are
amazing.
good innovators, and they were naturally selected from. Originally, we had a pool of about 30, and just 10 out of 14 that
Yeah,
made it.
that's inspiring, very inspiring. Like
So
Isa,
very proud.
Who comes from the tech field, always used to
I
say
know.
that in the engineering field, there's more males than females. It's great for dating, but it's not great otherwise.
I
But
mean, Isa must know, right? It's really quite a thin field out there when it comes to women. I mean, we've been to a lot of entrepreneur events, and like, where's the women? Where's the women founders? There's a lot of workers, but where are the founders?
I love what you just said. That it's not just you're not just talking about invention and innovators, but you're looking at academia as well. That's the level playing field in academia. So it's very nice to hear that for UM, one of the most prestigious and oldest universities in Malaysia too. Thanks,
Yeah.
Prof, for that sharing. And Isa, no funny, Prof, you're saying Isa would know, and that's why we're going to Isa next. Isa, in your capacity as MENA's president, you work with many women entrepreneurs on that position itself, but you come as a technopreneur to us and you studied engineering. You were always surrounded by people in the tech industry. How would you say, what are your views on the style of leadership between males and females?
Okay, so I think we always have this discussion, right, on the differences between males and females. I think one of the biggest things that I always see is that males are bigger risk takers. A woman would test the water first before they jump in. A man would just jump in. So it's the same as taking a loan. It's the same as inviting investors into your company. So you're always a bit cautious, like, can I get a loan? Do I do this? But to a male, they look at the future. They look at where they want to be, and then they do everything towards that. So there's pros and cons. Banks love women because we make sure that we pay every single thing that we owe them. So we would never we would never take risks with their money. So therefore, but you can see that without taking risks, the companies tend to be smaller. All right. So sometimes to a woman, because we have so many things in our lives, maybe being the most famous person in the world is not our goal. So maybe our goal is more like, I want to do something. I want to make a difference in society. I want to do that. So there could be other measures of success that a woman goes for. So I think that also differentiates the style of leadership.
Nicely said. There's research to show that it's how you raise your kids also. So you tell your girls to not climb up the monkey bar and not fall down because you'll injure your pretty face and get scars all over your arms and legs. But you tell your boys, climb the higher the better. And that research has been proven that attitude you take with you when you grow older. The boys are bigger risk takers. They take bigger things because mommy said I can do everything. I can climb everything. I can climb that tree. But then the girls get that. But yes, so I love that in this forum itself, we are proving them different. How you're raised up, it's not nurture, it's not nature or nurture. It's all the strategy and the things that we're exposed to. All right, so Gina, on to you. You work with your partner, both business partner and life partner, Andrew, in both businesses, in the fashion industry and in your sanitizer industry. How is your experience working with your partner? Is there an impact? What is the impact with diversity? You have diversity at the top. What's the impact of that? Do you both come from different viewpoints? Please do share. You're on mute, Gina.
Unmute myself. Yeah, it was a big challenge for me because we work together 24 hours a day, you know, and he's my partner, as you said, in business and my partner in crime. We have a lot of differences in opinions, in beliefs, in strengths, and we do clash sometimes, you know. Even we argue about the type of fonts we want to put into a poster. Can you imagine that? You know, and what I think, which is important, is that our roles are fluid. Sometimes I do numbers, and sometimes he does the design. So he speaks the Queen's English and I speak American English. Tomato, tomato, potato, potato. You know, it's like East and West. So, and I remember on our first date when we talk about my work, my designs and my fashion show, he was so enthusiastic with my designs to the point that we were talking about a future fashion show of how we will actually present a cupcake in a fashion show. So things like that. And I thought that night, I thought, oh wow, this guy is amazing. I mean, he can read my mind and he appreciates me, my work. Believe me, it is very, very important when you work with your partner that he believes in you. So from then on, we were inseparable. How many years now?
Okay, on that, let's go back to Aiza's question, yeah, or Aiza's statement, not question, that men are bigger risk takers. How do you find that? So who's the bigger risk taker, you or Andrew?
Oh my God, I am a feminist. I want to say always what I want to say. This is me, this is what I want to do. And that's very, very important. And, you know, but the good thing about Andrew is he listens to me. He appreciates what I do, and he always like support me in every little thing that I do. And this really, really really important for a relationship, and also in business, because otherwise, I mean, the flow of business is not good. You know, it has to be a yin and yang. You know, and for me, that is really, really important. And what they always used to say is behind a successful man is a woman. But in my case, it's both ways, you know, because being a successful woman, we need a pillar of a man, you see, we need that. And
that's a nice angle.
Yeah, and the very first thing is you need to be there, and the man behind you should make you feel important, and he must make you shine.
He helped you a lot with the slides. Well, Andrew's doing a great job, Gina. And
yeah, he's been fixing my computer all the time.
It's nice to see how there's the interplay, both in life and in your business as well, and helping you, you know, putting the brand out there and helping you climb higher to greater heights. Talking about climbing to greater heights, Dr. Anusha, as the topic is on innovating into the future, what innovation are you currently working on?
Oh, well, at the moment, right now, I'm in, from where I currently create my goods. So the thing is, I've had to have start up another business alongside my medical profession, and that was Noosh Naturals, basically to fund the R&D and basically to bring my medical innovation through to reality. So along the way, surprisingly, the cosmetic line that I created has actually drawn a lot of attention, and a lot of people who use it like it. And I've got a special line for curls, which the people with curls appreciate. So, the definite step that I need to do is I'm working towards creating a GMP, my own GMP facility, so that I can.
You might want to tell everyone what GMP is. They might
GMP,
not.
oh, it's a good manufacturing practice. So right now, I don't know if I can take you through and basically my lab is up here. So my clinic is downstairs and my lab is up here. And so I run up and down in between, like see patients do something, see patients do something. So that's how I manage. But of course, I'm realizing that as I grow and I need to expand, I cannot be doing everything myself, and I have to create a more what do you call it, streamlined process. Yeah, streamlined process towards the output of this. So one of it is actually to get this GMP certifications in order, so then I can increase my production, I can increase my distribution, and all those things that come with expansion.
Exciting times ahead. It's from services of medical services to product line. You know, that's great things in the pipeline.
Yes, God willing.
So to the audience, today, because of a very limited time, we're not even touching about your personal life in terms
Oh
of
my gosh.
Dr. Anusha having 3 kids on her hand and still doing this medical line and Noosh Naturals, and goodness gracious me. But thanks for sharing that on how Noosh Naturals is going to go somewhere else. So then probably in a year's time or 2 years' time when we interview you again, we will have more updates.
I hope so.
And how about you, Aiza? What are your plans to steer Mad Cat World and Weena into the future?
Okay, so I think for Mad Cat World, what we've been always striving to do is to be like Apple, right? So Steve Jobs is known for one thing. Maybe because my background is Nokia, so we do so many things. So then, so this is the one thing that we want to do is like maybe eventually we streamline to just one product that we want to really build it really well and grow it to a global level. So that's the thing that we're focusing on. For Wena, I think again, the main issue is that we need to find the leaders coming up after us, because we're not going to be president forever. So I want to invite younger people to come on board. You know, the young women are the people that we need. Because yesterday I had a session on Clubhouse talking about why we need women in politics, and then we're also talking about at what age should you encourage your girls to be concerned about the country. It has to come from a young age where children, kids, girls, we need to think about how can they do this. You know, so like one of your the participants in the group chat, I think Raj, he was saying that women always innovate the betterment of society. So I think that is true. I have to say, for me at least, that we're always thinking about this kind of things. How do we change society, and how do we get our young girls to come on board and do that with us?
Very, very insightful, very interesting, because you can also share the experience of women entrepreneurs in the organization level, that they are, when they innovate, they're innovating for betterment of society. On that part, on the company level, you were saying that you want to create one product, kind of like the Apple. Is it a hardware, or are you looking at software? Because Apple had both. No, Apple had iPad, iPod, which was improvement of phones and improvements of tablets, and they focus a lot on design as well. If you remember the iPod, they had a swirl
Yes.
design. So which one are you looking at, hardware or software? Or both?
Definitely software, because the focus that we have right now is on fintech and how to grow that fintech. So the fintech specifically focuses on how we create that innovation both in society as well as making it a platform that can be used around the world, right? So that's one thing that we're doing right now. So if we can work on fintech, because that fintech focuses on micro funding and giving that platform for other organizations that do micro funding to track the impact of their giving. So that I think is what drives us now, because in an IT company we always build software and stuff like that, and you never actually see the people that benefit from that. So when you do this kind of fintech, you actually meet the people on the ground, and you're like, oh, this is the person that I'm helping. So it's a great feeling, I think.
Thanks. And Gina, how about yourself? If you could go back in time, what would you advise yourself as a person starting out, very new, you said went to university in Philippines? What would you advise yourself if you could go back into time?
For me, I always advise myself or anybody, a new student or a friend, what they want to do in life. I always say you just always have to follow your heart, your passion, because whatever you do, it will bring you back there, you see, in your passion, in the things that you love to do. A good example is what I'm doing with my fashion designing, with the eco-san effect. I have a core goal. It's about eco. So when I move to new things, I always adapt that. I want to do things that I love to do. And things that I love to do makes me happy. And that's very, very important. Don't let anybody pull you down. You just go ahead, go for it, always on the go.
Entrepreneur life. Entrepreneur life of go, go, go.
Go, go.
Thanks, Gina.
You're
Prof.
welcome.
Yasmin, from the academic point of view, as a leader in your career, how would you encourage other young persons to think innovatively?
Yeah, absolutely. This is it's totally a mindset, and as Gina says, you have to have purpose also. Purpose. And for young people, I think, especially at university, they cannot just be looking at their little domain. They really have to look outwards. If they're looking at a box, to remember a box has 4 sides. Circle has many sides as well. The earth is round, and you can't just stand still and think, that's it. You have to ask the questions. You have to then say, what if? And after that, you have to say, why not? And that way you can embrace all sorts of opportunities. So education is just another step, to discovering many, many things. Don't feel confined to what you're doing now. Don't feel confined to where you are now. So I think that there's just so much out there to be discovered.
Gems of wisdom. What if and why not? So those tuning in, 2 questions. What if and why not? And earlier, if you remember, Prof. Yasmin also said 2 things. Look at opportunities and look at confidence.
Yes.
Right? Opportunities and confidence and what ifs and why nots. Thank you, Prof. All right, so this question now, we're going to do a round table. I want to hear each of your views. Indra Nui is one of my role models. She, as a parent to 2 kids from a different country, entered the US, climbed up the ranks, and became the CEO of PepsiCo. For 12 years as CEO of PepsiCo, she looked at diversifying their product line. From fizzy drinks, they went into healthier products. But what was interesting is she still kept to a 5.5% of net revenue, steady growth, even though she was diversifying. So that was innovation, but still not impacting the bottom line. Who would you say would be your role model in innovation? So let's start first with Dr. Anusha. Who's your role model and why?
I think definitely for me, my role model for innovation would be my father. I mean, he pushed the glass ceiling in all aspects in terms of his profession as a medical doctor. He pushed the boundaries. He challenged all what we were taught, what he was taught, and all the things that we think we know, we might not know. So in that way, he always kind of pushed the boundaries in terms of questioning ideologies and to really get to the root of the issue and try to find innovative solutions for it. And I really take a page out of his book, actually, because he was back in the day also creating mad inventions which when I cleared up the storage area, I'm like, what the heck is this? There was like a helmet with a air conditioner compressor attached to it, and I'm like, what crazy mad inventions. But you see, you have to kind of do mad things to, somebody will call you mad until you hit the jackpot, and then they'll call you a genius, so
The thin line, isn't it?
yeah. So it's really like I definitely he has been a big part of what I do and how I do it as well, and what I want to prove in terms of actually getting these kind of innovative things validated in the university, doing scientific research and proving that mad ideas actually do work.
Great sharing, great role model as well. Thank you. Gina, how about yourself? Who would your role model be?
My role model is always been my mother. Okay, I grew up in the Philippines. As you know, we have a lot of scarcity in water, in electricity, sometimes food because of the population. and we are a third world country, and unfortunately. But at a very young age, she trained me how to appreciate things. Food, for example. Food, she taught me how to recycle food. Don't waste food. Don't throw away food. Eat your food. So for me, that is very important. Like as I am now, I do the same thing. I follow her footsteps. When it comes to water, my God, we have a very big scarcity of water in the Philippines. You cannot imagine. We don't have water for a few days. Can you imagine Malaysia? You don't have water for a few days. Everybody goes berserk. But we had to learn how to live with it, the Filipinos. So to the point that she says to me, Gina, when you're showering, switch off. When you're shampooing your hair, switch off the tap and shampoo your hair. You don't need this all running water flowing down the drain. What a waste. So I also teach my kids through that. So for me, everything that I do in my life now, it is she who taught me how to live.
Is that also why you entered into like the whole recycling and eco is your passion?
Definitely. At a very young age, I get, oi, don't throw away this on the outside. Put it in the garbage can. Don't litter. Everything, and switch off your lights. When you're not
Because
in the room, switch off your lights.
it's very different for someone in the fashion industry talking about eco. And the reason being is textile manufacturing, it leaves a very bad footprint on the environment. So it's really nice to hear someone from the fashion industry talking about recycling or recycled products being used in the fashion.
That's very true. Designers are actually the #2 polluters in the world. The first one is oil and gas. We are 7 billion people. Why do we need 180 billion clothes? Why? Really?
No, well said. Well said. Very nice to come from a fashionista.
I stopped buying new clothes actually. This one I'm wearing, this is a baju kurung, which was donated by my neighbors, and instead of just throwing it away because they want to throw it away, I made it a top like this.
Love it. Guys, you need to connect with Gina, yeah? We'll give all the links in the chat box. We're very happy for all of you to connect with all our speakers, add them on Insta, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, get to know them, ask them as many questions that you want personally, or in the chat box, and we'll address them now. We're going to Q&A very soon, but let's hear from Aiza and Prof. Yasmin. So Aiza first, on who is your role model in terms of innovation?
Okay, so besides Steve Jobs, which you've heard me gush on, so I also respect Jeff Bezos, because I think what Amazon has done is also amazing, because they're always looking at where in the blue ocean should they be in, right? So I think they've become a household name. I used to buy from Amazon when the exchange rate was cheaper, but I love them. They constantly treat me so well, and they always believe me when I tell them the package hasn't been delivered. And then sometimes I end up getting 2 packages because it did get delivered after like a month or so. So I love them, really. So that's one of my role models. And definitely, if I can do just a quick pitch. So we're having a global mentoring walk on March 6th, and this is where we want women mentors to step up and mentor the young people. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Aiza. And how about yourself, Prof?
So many people I admire, but really, I really want to thank really all the women in science, in particular, who has made the path so easy for us in the current, in the current day. It was a struggle to be recognized, and I just share with you, the recent revelations that really women put men on the moon. Right? It was really a group of scientists who were working in the back, did not get any recognition till they were in their 80s and 90s. They were the brains behind GPS. They were the brains behind satellite technology. They were the brains behind astronaut suits, and they put the man on the moon. So they're also very caring and sharing.
I'm so glad there's a lot of men also joining us, and this is recorded and we'll repeat it again and again and again.
Check out the NASA websites, it's been recognized. But anyway, there's been a lot of sacrifices along the way, but I think women and girls nowadays have a lot more opportunity in science than ever before. Yeah.
It's really interesting. I think times are changing. One movie that talks about it is Hidden Figures, and it was a
That's
very
right. Hidden figures. Yeah.
famous movie. And then also now I'm noticing the trend is changing. A lot of females are out there wanting to conquer the world and also thinking twice about starting a family. Like why? When there's so much more to explore and so much more to achieve. So it's definitely changing landscapes that's happening before us right now.
We need the
Thank
ISA jobs out there, ISA job.
Say that again.
ISA jobs, I mean,
And
ISA Bezos. So
You heard that, Isa?
econ.
We might see her in politics. Who knows?
Ooh, I would like that.
All right. So thank you so much for sharing. We've seen some questions pop out. So let's make sure we have enough time to address everyone's questions from the audience. Thanks, participants, for being very interactive and being free to put up your questions there. I'm going to pass the session to Mega to pop out the questions.
Yeah, thanks, Gita. So we have a question here. The question was, how can a business or organization instill a sustained culture of innovation? Noor Aiza did answer this question, so I'll read her answer first, and other panelists can also give their 2 bits or 2 cents of knowledge. So Noor Aiza said that you can have a sustained culture of innovation by having an open door culture where anybody can suggest improvements and will not be ridiculed. Or they can also constantly look at ideas and decide as a team what the organization should focus on. And 3, by allowing the team members to participate, you will get greater buy-in and enthusiasm. So the other panelists, what do you think? How can a business or organization instill a sustained culture of innovation?
I totally agree. Participation, allowing participation, allowing discussion. Really, they don't have to be. They don't always have to be right, and it's okay to be wrong. And I think that's also a message that leaders have to share. That people should be free to express their opinion without being put down. And a wrong opinion is still an opinion. That gets the team forward. So yes, definitely participation.
Thanks, Prof. And Dr. Anusha, how about yourself?
Yes, definitely. Even for my workplace, we are always looking for how we can improve and having team discussions on and off, just to see how we can better innovate, how we can better improve our approach, how we can, problem solve, troubleshoot, get the things that are holding us back, and try to see how we can best overcome them, and doing it in a discussion where we can let everybody's voice be heard. I think it's very important, and also to have a culture where we don't put each other down and we don't say, oh my God, that's so stupid, how can you say such thing? I think it's like those kind of words that when people say something new or innovative or creative or out of the box, that will shut down innovation. So we have to, in a culture, especially in a workplace culture, to actually adopt certain methods of approach, certain methods of communication that actually foster an acceptance of all ideas, and not put down ideas off the bat, because it only takes a spark, and then from that spark, if you put out that spark, there is no flame. So I think accepting, being open to ideas is really important, and then from the idea you see which works, and then work on getting that idea into fruition. I think that's important.
Thank you, Dr. Anusha. I think we better go to the next question.
The next one is from Karen, and she's asking, how can a business innovate a brand that can have social impact when we are ready to give back to society? She says, say 5% of the business margin. What would be your advice to test, learn, and fail?
It's a lot of questions in one question, huh?
Yep. I can answer that.
Okay.
Okay, so usually when we talk about giving back, what you need to do is look at the people that you're giving back to. So usually you select a community. So that community will be the one that you work with to constantly give back to that community. So say you want to, save the animals, or work with children. So then you would define them as your community that you want to do social impact on. So that way, if my advice is to like stick to one and then carry it all the way, so that if you are working with children, for example, and you start working with them when they are age 5, follow them until they are age 50. If you look at research done, then you can really see the impact of what you're contributing back to the community.
I guess it could also be funny. I'm not supposed to answer any questions, but I guess it could also be in the sense that giving back in terms of monetary and also employing. Like if you are looking at disabled, you can employ disabled people into your organization while you build your enterprise. But yeah, I mean, anyone else who would like to share your views on that?
Personally, I think this is the way businesses should all be moving to. There's no such thing as a business that does not have a social impact. And every business should define how they're going to incorporate this into their business model. So yeah, I think it's so important to think about this now.
Nice. Enter into business plan and put in your strategy right from the start.
Yeah, I think that definitely is something that a lot of people overlook, like the contribution portion of it. I mean, at the end of the day, we are going to be taxed for whatever revenue you have. So really going into what charities that you really moved by and are passionate towards, it's really impactful, and not just giving randomly and then your full impact is not seen. You're right, Aiza. Very, very much true.
I guess also with Gina, she's already impacting society with her one, with the whole recycling and eco concept behind it. Gina, anything to share, or we move on to the next question?
Yeah. Actually, what we do in Ecopreneur is we give back to the society. I mean, we're following the SDG goals of the United Nations by doing equality, observing equality in the workforce, giving help to people to lessen poverty, and even giving chances to underprivileged workers and also disabled. And I think that's very important to help this community. And with the children, right now, what we did was we are donating sanitizers to the orphanages so that the children are being educated at a very young age of personal hygiene. It is very important for them to know that they have to protect themselves, you see, to fight this pandemic. So I think for us, it is very, very important that we get in touch with the people who are in need. And that is one of our goals, actually.
Thanks, Gina.
Yeah,
Megha, do you have any more questions?
Yes, one more from Raj, and he says that what are some of the gender stereotypes or biases you have faced in your innovation and commercialization journey?
Well, this one time I'm pitching a story, right, to someone. I'm pitching a product, and then the guy actually asked me like, "How old are you?" I'm like, "Okay," and then he said, "Oh, you look younger than your age." And I'm like, "Why are you asking me about my age? Would you ask a guy about his age when he's pitching a product to you?"
Oh, that's a very interesting stereotype. What did you reply? Did you tell me your age?
Yes, I did, because I thought it was like I was new at that time. I thought it was a serious question, so I'm telling him, and then I said, "Oh, is that a thank you?"
Interesting. You should do that now, because I know you sit on pitch and you listen to pitch sometimes, right? How about you, Prof? You've been in the industry for 30 years. Listening to pitches is not new to you as well. What is your gender stereotype?
I think there's a little bit difficult acceptance from industry for women to be still the lead, and sometimes we tend to we ourselves tend to put women at the back to just reach that comfort level, So I don't know whether that's a stereotype. So what I'm getting at is sometimes the stereotyping comes from within ourselves, that we don't feel that we could be out there negotiating with the men or, pitching to the guys, it's one of those things. I've had to learn it really, to really pull myself out of stereotyping how women should behave or how.
Super
It's hard.
inspiring. I think this is inspiring. So
Hard.
your own mindset. It's a whole limiting belief of ourselves, as females.
Yeah. The teh tarik with the boys is not so easy to do.
It gets more tough at the top. The whole 30% club thing it gets more tough. It gets more narrow. You find that it's finding another female in the board is just so rare. And I'm sure, Prof, you felt it as you climbed up in itself. You would have seen it happening. It gets less females as colleagues.
Yeah.
But when the government actually started that training of women for directorship, they actually had an age limit. So you had to be above 40 to enter the program. And I was asking them why. Then they told me that, women below 40 are not stable. So I'm like, what do you mean? And then they're saying it's not stable because they have to raise their family, do this, do that. And I'm like, and a guy doesn't have that issue? So I thought it comes from all over, right? The
I think it's the whole leaning in campaign is about that. During the pandemic, research has shown, because Deloitte has come up with a report, so has the Wall Street Journal. Research has shown that women were the first to let go. They were the first ones to lose a job. So moving on to Dr. Anusha, what would your gender stereotype have been?
Oh my goodness. Actually, I'm lucky. I didn't really experience that much gender stereotype, whether it be in the hospital when I worked for about 6 years. I think we were put on very much the same playing field. Maybe in terms of medical, it's different because it's not a corporate organization. It's more like everybody starts from the bottom anyway. So for me, in terms of the medical line, it wasn't there wasn't so much of gender stereotype. So I so far have been spared that much, and I put on equal playing fields. My father always, he being the man of the practice, and he always, just taught me everything, made me do the most,
He treated you like just anyone then.
Yeah,
He didn't
anyone.
differentiate the female and the male in the family.
No. We were made to do all sorts of things, like, it wasn't like a gender thing. It was fine. I think for me, I didn't really experience that in my career. So far, so good.
Nice. Very lucky. One of the fortunate ones. How about yourself, Gina?
Okay. I had to go back to my school time. I mean, my school university experience. Engineering in the Philippines was dominantly taken by men. Guys, you're also engineers, Aisha, right? So for them, engineering is all about, it's actually, how do I say this? It's the men's job. Okay, you have mechanical engineering, you have
electrical engineering, chemical,
electronics, all those are work for men. So how come women are allowed to take up engineering? So for them at the time, we said that why only men can take engineering? What about women? We can take engineering as well. So also industrial engineering was also a very it's a big like a new course during the time. So what I had to do was, okay, I just gonna go for it, and who cares? I mean, I can do it. If the boys can do it, we can also do it. Women can also do it, So little did they know, actually, all these people would say, "Oh, engineering, that's not for girls." But we had a hell of a time in engineering because we were treated by the boys. Few girls. There were few girls.
The girls stand out.
Yeah. So I think nothing can tell you cannot do what men can do.
Actually, that's perfect, because I'm going to wrap this up before we go into a photo session. Let's hear from all the panelists. So now we've heard, Gina, that you can do what men can do. Let's have closing remarks from all of you before we do a photo session. How about you, Aiza? Your closing remarks for all of those listening in. Okay, the topic is innovating into the future, which then means that's what they want to do. And you saw the polls that we had. Many want to and are trying to and sometimes don't know how to? What is your advice for them?
Okay, so I think again, when we talk about innovation into the future, we always talk about what value do we give to people, right? So it could be if you're serving the community, what value do you give to the community? If you're serving customers, what value do you give to them? So when you talk about innovation, you always look at how can my organization, how can myself stay relevant and continuously look at producing these value statements and giving out real contribution to your customers or to your community. So that is what I would say innovation is.
Thanks, Isa. Prof?
Well, definitely, coming from university, I just want to send a message that we need to connect the dots, really. We need to really get everyone to engage, because the innovating the future is about working together. And so I think university and university technology is very underutilized in Malaysia. And, we're open for partnership, guys, So really, Anusha will tell you, you just have to knock on our door. It's an open campus. And so are all the universities, actually. We're so happy to go, to hit the future with everyone and contribute. So it's about partnerships. Yeah.
Thanks, Prof. And Dr. Anusha?
Yeah, definitely. Innovating is just constantly evolving. You always have to question, you always have to ask, how can I improve myself, my organization, and really troubleshoot, problem solve. And again, reach out to others for help. And I've noticed that alone, innovation can only go so far, and it takes multiple people to come together to actually bring an idea to fruition. You have to foster partnerships, you have to foster relationships, you have to get other people on board with your innovation for it to actually be of impact. So that is definitely something that don't be afraid of your innovative idea. Be brave to share it, and just be bold in believing in your idea and going forward with it. I think that is the ultimate thing, where if you believe in your idea, if you see the benefit of it, if you see the value of it, and the whole value chain is that making others see the value of your innovation, and then that's when it becomes something that everybody can really use and benefit from.
Great. All right, ladies, thank you so much for your time. Before I thank you totally about it, I don't want to lose the participants. Let's grab a photo. Let's snap a photo. So to those who have switched off your video or your camera, please switch it back on so we could have all of you here together. Let's celebrate the International Women's Day with a smile to the males and the females. Thank you for joining us. All right, so panelists, before you leave, panelists, to Prof. Yasmin, to Dr. Anusha, to Isa, and to Gina, words can't express how much we appreciate you taking your time from your busy schedule to coming here, sharing with all the participants here today from your experience. It was so much in depth, hearing from your lessons that you have learned. So you make mistakes so that we don't need to make the mistakes. Thank you so much. And to the audience, thank you for joining us. With you innovating, you make a difference in our lives because you're putting innovation out there into community, into society, and into our nation. I know there's some not listening in from Malaysia, you're coming in from Thailand, from Indonesia, from Korea, and from India as well. Please continue innovating and making a difference in your society. Thanks very much for joining us today and for making this event a very enjoyable event. Take care and stay safe.